Humanity was small and quiet. Earth was ignored by the galaxy. But silence was not weakness. It was preparation. Humans learned, built, and dreamed. One day the stars would hear us. Our home was Earth, a small blue world in a wide universe. It was full of water, full of air, full of life. Mountains cut the clouds. Rivers ran like silver threads. Forests breathed in green waves. The land was rich. The seas were deep. And in the middle of this, humans lived. We were many, and we were different. Some lived in cold places. Some lived in warm deserts. Some lived near the sea, some in high mountains, some in busy cities, some in quiet villages. We spoke many languages, sang many songs, told many stories. But we all lived under the same sky. The stars above us were always calling. For thousands of years, we looked at them and wondered, what are they? Who is out there? Are we alone? But for a long time, we could only dream. Life on Earth was not easy. People worked hard every day. A farmer rose before the sun to plant and water. A teacher walked into a classroom to share knowledge with children. A doctor stayed late in a hospital to save a life. An engineer bent over a desk to design a new machine. Each person was a small part of something bigger. We were not perfect. We argued. We fought wars. We made mistakes that hurt the air, the rivers, the land. Sometimes greed and anger pulled us apart. Sometimes fear held us back. But we also had hope. Hope that tomorrow could be better. Hope that problems could be solved. Hope that peace could be built. Even when our hands were empty, our minds were full. We made fire. We made wheels. We made books. We made engines. We made planes. We made rockets. Every tool carried us one step further. We were slow compared to the stars, but we never stopped. At night, people looked up. A child lying in the grass asked, "What is that light?" A mother pointed to the moon and said, "That is our neighbor." A pilot flying high looked at the Milky Way and felt both small and proud. A student in a dorm stared at a star map and whispered, "Someday, I will go there." These dreams filled us, even when the world was noisy with problems. Our silence was not empty. It was full of work. In labs, teams built engines and tested them. In shipyards, new frames rose into the sky. In control rooms, people watched screens filled with numbers. In fields, farmers grew food that would feed those dreamers. In cities, teachers gave knowledge to the next builders. All of this was power, even if it did not look like power yet. We learned through trial and error. We built rockets that rose and then fell. We built ships that broke. We built machines that failed. But each failure was a lesson. Each mistake made us smarter. We laughed at ourselves, we cried at our losses, and then we tried again. And always, the stars waited. They said nothing. They gave no answer. But their silence was not cruel. It was patient. It gave us time to grow. On Earth, some people said, "We must fix our world first." They were right. Others said, "We must reach the stars." They were also right. Both paths were part of the same journey, to heal our planet, to heal ourselves, and to reach out into the sky. The silent Earth was not truly silent. It hummed with songs, with engines, with prayers, with code. It pulsed with the heartbeat of billions. It whispered, "We are here. We are learning. We are waiting decade." The day of first contact did not come with fire. It did not come with war. It came with a signal. It was faint, almost lost in the noise of the universe. A long, repeating sound. A rhythm that no star, no planet, no black hole could make. It was too clean, too ordered. It was a voice. Not a human voice, but a voice from beyond. At first, the signal was found by accident. A small team of scientists in a quiet lab listening to the sky noticed a strange pattern. At first, they thought it was an error in the machine. Then they thought it was human interference. But when they checked again and again, the signal was still there. It came from far away, beyond our solar system. The news spread quickly. Governments held secret meetings. Reporters whispered to each other. People argued on talk shows. Was it real? Was it a trick? Was it danger? Was it hope? The world was divided. Some feared the worst. If they are stronger, they may come to conquer us. Others dreamed of the best. If they are wiser, they may come to guide us. Many simply waited, unsure what the future would bring. But the signal grew stronger. It was not just sound. It carried information, pictures, symbols, a language. It was simple, as if the senders knew we were young. Circles, lines, numbers, basic shapes. It was a greeting, written in the language of math and light. Human scientists worked day and night to decode it. Slowly they understood. The message said, "We are here. We see you. Do not fear." For the first time, humans knew we were not alone. The world changed. People filled the streets to look at the sky. Children pointed at stars with wide eyes. Old men cried. Prayers rose in temples and churches and mosques. Songs were written. Dreams became real, but fear was still there. Military leaders asked, "What if this is a trap?" Politicians asked, "How should we answer?" Scientists asked, "How much do we share?" The galaxy had noticed us. The silence was broken. Months later, another message came. This time it was a map, a star marked with bright light. It was an invitation. Some said, "Do not go." Others said, "We must." In the end, humanity chose courage. We built a ship. It was not large. It was not perfect. But it was ours. It carried our hope, our fear, and our voice. When the ship launched, the world watched. Millions stood in city streets, on beaches, on rooftops, looking up as the rocket climbed. For a moment, all humans were one. Not divided by borders, not divided by tongues, but united by wonder. The ship left Earth, crossed the dark, and followed the map. Weeks turned into months. The crew waited, trained, worked, and dreamed. Then, one day, the stars shifted and the target star grew near. There, waiting in the void, was another ship. Not human. Its shape was strange, like a curve of silver light, like a sail without wind. It did not fire. It did not run. It waited. The first meeting was silent. Two ships, one human, one alien, facing each other across the dark. Then slowly lights blinked. A code, a message, a welcome. Human hearts beat fast. Hands shook. Words were spoken across radios. At last, one human voice answered. "We are here. We are ready." And so began the first contact. It was not the end of our silence. It was the beginning of our power. Because now we were no longer alone. Now the galaxy knew our name, humans. The first meeting was short. The alien ship did not stay long. It sent more signals, more symbols, more messages. Then it turned and left. It did not fight. It did not land. It did not explain much. It only showed us that we were not alone and that we were being watched. Many humans were disappointed. They wanted answers. They wanted friendship or danger or something more clear. But what the aliens gave us was silence. And in that silence, humans began to learn. The messages left behind were simple, but inside them were ideas. A new way of counting energy, a new way of shaping metal, a new way of storing light. To the aliens, these were perhaps old lessons. To us, they were gifts of fire. Scientists studied the codes day and night. Engineers turned them into new designs. Factories tested new engines, new batteries, new machines. Some failed. Some exploded. Some worked better than we dreamed, but there was more than tools. There was also meaning. The aliens had given us hints, not answers. They had not built ships for us. They had not solved our problems. They had only given us keys. We had to open the doors ourselves. This was our lesson. Silence can be a teacher. When no one holds your hand, you learn to walk. When no one speaks, you learn to listen. When no one gives you everything, you learn to create. Across Earth, people argued about the aliens. Were they kind? Were they dangerous? Why did they give us only little pieces? But under all the debate, work continued. We built stronger rockets. We built cleaner energy. We built computers that could think faster. At first, these changes were small. A lighter engine here, a sharper lens there. But small steps became bigger steps. Ships reached farther. Signals grew clearer. Data moved faster. In schools, children studied the alien symbols alongside math and science. In universities, students wrote papers about alien logic. In labs, teams mixed human science with alien hints. This mix became something new, something stronger. Still, many people worried. Some said, "We are becoming dependent on alien knowledge." Others said, "We are growing too fast, and it may bring danger." And they were not wrong. Growth brings risk. But silence had also taught us resilience. We did not just copy, we improved. We adapted. Humans are not the strongest. We are not the fastest, but we are the best at learning. We fail and we rise. We break and we rebuild. We fall and we climb again. The galaxy did not understand this yet, but it would. Years passed. The memory of the first signal became history, but its effects were everywhere. In our ships, in our power, in our knowledge, in our unity, and still the aliens did not return. They stayed silent. But this silence was not empty. It was a test. It was a space for us to grow. We had begun our lessons in silence. And soon we would be ready for the next chapter, when silence ended, and the galaxy came not with gifts, but with fire. For many years after first contact, Earth was busy with growth. We built faster ships. We learned better ways to use power. We shared more knowledge between nations. It was not perfect, but progress was real. Yet in the galaxy, not all eyes were kind. Some old empires had noticed our rise. To them, humans were not students or partners. To them, we were prey. One empire, large and proud, decided to act. They had ruled for centuries. They believed no new species should rise so quickly. They believed humans were dangerous because we learned too fast. And so they sent warships toward our world. The attack began without warning. One night, our satellites saw strange shapes entering the solar system. At first, many thought it was another gift, another meeting. But soon, the truth was clear. These ships carried weapons. Fear swept Earth. Some said, "We cannot fight. We are too weak." Others said, "We must defend ourselves." There was no time for long debates. The enemy was coming. Our fleets were small. Our weapons were simple compared to theirs. Their ships were larger, stronger, faster. On paper, there was no chance. But humans had one thing the enemy did not. We had practice in failure. We knew how to lose and try again. The first battles were hard. We lost many ships. Space was filled with fire and wreckage. Families wept. But every defeat taught us something. Every loss gave us new data. Engineers studied the wreckage. Pilots shared tricks. Commanders changed tactics. Humans are quick to adapt. Where the enemy repeated old methods, we improvised. We used smaller ships to strike from blind spots. We turned mining lasers into weapons. We hid in asteroid fields. We jammed their signals with simple tricks they had forgotten long ago. The enemy was shocked. They had faced many species before, but those species followed rules. Humans did not. We bent rules until they broke. We turned weakness into surprise. The war was not one great victory. It was many small struggles. On the moon, soldiers defended outposts with drones and courage. In orbit, pilots fought in silence, only the hum of machines around them. On Earth, factories worked day and night to build more ships, more tools, more hope. Every citizen became part of the fight. Farmers grew food for workers. Students studied science to improve machines. Families sent messages of courage to those in space. We were not just soldiers. We were a people defending our future. The enemy did not expect this. They thought fear would break us, but fear only made us stronger. Each attack made us more united. Each loss made us more clever. Each day we survived was a victory. Months passed. The war was not over, but something had changed. The enemy no longer looked at us as prey. They began to see us as a problem. And that was the first step to winning. The first war was full of pain. Many lives were lost. But it was also full of lessons. It showed us that we could fight, even against stronger foes. It showed us that silence had prepared us well. And it showed the galaxy something it had not seen in a long time, the rise of humanity. The first war did not end quickly. For months, humans fought and bled in the cold dark of space. Our fleets were smaller. Our weapons were weaker. But we refused to stop. At first, the galaxy thought we would fall. Empires whispered among themselves, "The humans cannot last. They will burn like many before them." But we did not burn. We endured. And endurance was our weapon. The enemy empire grew angry. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they met resistance at every step. Their fleets were slowed. Their supplies stretched thin. Their leaders grew impatient. They did not understand how humans could keep fighting when outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. The answer was simple. We learned faster. Each defeat became a lesson. Each broken ship became a blueprint for a stronger one. Each fallen soldier left behind knowledge for others. We recycled our pain into strength. Our engineers worked day and night. They studied alien wreckage and mixed it with our own designs. Soon, new ships left our shipyards. They were still small, but sharper, faster, more dangerous. They carried weapons no one expected. Our tactics also changed. We stopped fighting in the ways the enemy wanted. Instead, we fought like no species before. We ambushed. We tricked. We hid in gravity wells, waiting for the right moment. We used the sun's light to blind sensors. We flew into storms of debris where bigger ships could not follow. The enemy was confused. They were used to foes who followed rules. We did not. We turned space into a battlefield of chaos, and chaos was our ally. And slowly the tide began to turn. For the first time, human fleets won battles without heavy losses. For the first time, alien warships retreated from our system. For the first time, hope spread across Earth not as a dream, but as reality. The news reached every corner of our planet. In cities, people cheered in the streets. In villages, radios carried the voices of pilots who had survived. Children drew pictures of spaceships and said, "We are strong." Humanity had tasted victory, and it changed us. The galaxy also noticed. Other empires began to watch closely. They whispered again, but this time with worry. The humans are not falling. They are rising. Still, the war was not over. The enemy sent larger fleets, more weapons, greater numbers. But by then, humans were no longer the same species they had first attacked. We had grown. We had adapted. We had become dangerous. The turning tide was not just about battles. It was about identity. We stopped seeing ourselves as victims. We stopped seeing ourselves as weak. We began to believe in our place among the stars. When the first alien fleet was forced to retreat fully, the message spread faster than light across every human heart. We can win. It was not the end of the war, but it was the end of fear. The first war changed us. We were no longer the small, quiet world that the galaxy ignored. We were a people who had faced death among the stars and survived. We had fought stronger ships, greater weapons, and older powers, and we were still here. The war did not end quickly, but after the turning tide, everything was different. The enemy empire, once so confident, now hesitated. They lost more battles. They lost more soldiers. Their fleets grew tired. Their leaders argued among themselves. Humanity had forced them into weakness. For the first time, other alien races began to notice us not as prey, but as equals. Small groups of traders, explorers, and wanderers reached out to humans. Some wanted to sell. Some wanted to learn. Some wanted to watch. And a few wanted to stand with us. Alliances began in secret. A small alien outpost shared maps with human pilots. A wandering trader gave us materials that we could not yet make. A quiet scholar offered advice on how to break the enemy's code. These were not great alliances yet, but they were seeds. Seeds of trust. Seeds of future power. On Earth, life also changed. Factories built more ships, more weapons, more tools. But they also built schools, hospitals, and research centers. War had made us strong, but it had also made us united. Nations that once fought each other now shared knowledge. Borders mattered less when survival depended on cooperation. The rise of humanity was not only in ships and fleets, it was also in spirit. We began to see ourselves not just as citizens of countries, but as humans of Earth. Our world became smaller, and our dream became bigger. Children grew up knowing that we were part of a galaxy. They learned alien numbers beside human math. They studied alien maps beside Earth maps. They no longer asked, "Are we alone?" They asked, "What will we do among the stars?" Our fleets grew stronger. Our pilots grew sharper. Our scientists grew wiser. But most of all, our hope grew brighter. The enemy empire, once feared, now feared us. They had awakened something they did not understand. The galaxy was full of old powers that had grown slow, but humans were still young. We were still hungry. We were still ready to climb. And in our climb, we did not climb alone. Slowly, carefully, we made friends. Slowly, carefully, we built trust. One day, a great fleet of humans and allies stood together. Ships of many designs, many colors, many stories. They were different, but they flew in the same formation. For the first time, humans were not just defending Earth. We were standing as leaders in a greater family. The rise of humanity was not about conquest. It was about voice. For so long, we had been silent. Now our voice carried across the stars, and it said, "We are here. We are strong. We are ready to join." The galaxy could no longer ignore us. The galaxy once thought humans were weak. We were small. We were quiet. We were ignored. But silence does not last forever. From silence we had built strength. From weakness we had made power. The enemy empire that attacked us was no longer strong. Their fleets were broken. Their leaders fought among themselves. They could not understand how humans had risen. They could not believe that we, the quiet species, had turned into a storm. But we understood. Our power was not only in ships and weapons. Our power was in will. Our power was in learning. Our power was in unity. The final battles were not like the first ones. At the start of the war, our fleets had been small, scattered, and desperate. But now human fleets were vast. Rows of ships, engines burning bright, filled the dark. And beside them, ships of our new allies flew. Different shapes, different colors, different stories. But one purpose. When the enemy returned with their largest fleet, ready to crush us, they met not silence, but thunder. Human ships did not run. They did not hide. They stood in formation and answered fire with fire. The battle was long. Explosions lit the void like suns. Ships broke apart. Shields cracked. Pilots cried out in strain. But the tide had turned long ago. We were not prey. We were not weak. We were hunters, builders, and survivors. At last, the enemy flagship was destroyed. The great empire, once feared across the stars, was broken. Its fleet scattered. Its voice silenced. And in that silence, humanity roared. The roar was not of hate. It was of victory. It was of survival. It was of a new place in the galaxy. The roar said, "We are not small. We are not weak. We are here, and we will never be ignored again." Across Earth, people cheered. Across allied worlds, voices rose. The galaxy listened. Some were afraid. Some were hopeful. Some were inspired. For humans, this was only the beginning. We did not rise to destroy. We rose to stand, to speak, to lead. Our silence had been long, but our power would be longer. From silence to power. From prey to protector. From forgotten to unforgettable. This was the rise of humanity, and it was only the first chapter. From silence, we grew into power. From prey, we became protectors. Now the galaxy knows our name. Humanity rose, and our roar will never be forgotten.